All right, guys. So today we're going to be having ourselves a college football coaches draft among current active head coaches in college football. So this is essentially a top 25 ranking, but to make it a little more interesting for both me and yourself, I've broken it into categories as far as conference by conference. Those are the teams that are going to be drafting. And then at the end of the video, we're going to decide down in the comment section which conference you think has the best set of coaches. So the best 5 coaches in this conference. All right. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into this anyways. Let's go ahead and get started here. All right. So with the first pick in the 2023 college football draft, the ACC selects. I forgot my music. Dun, 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 dun. All right, I think you know where we're going with number 1. Nick Saban, best college football coach arguably of all time, let alone right now. 3 national championships. His resume speaks for itself. But the real eye popper here, whenever I was looking this up, is the guy has 13, yes, you heard that right, 13 12-plus win seasons. That's on freaking real. 13 12-plus win seasons. The dude doesn't lose. And to have that level of sustainability for this long, this is the best college football coach of all time, let alone right now. All right, so next up, number 2, with the second pick in the first round, the Big Ten is going to select, got to be Kirby Smart, right? Got to be Kirby Smart, arguably the best coach right now. And Saban edged him this year, but he's been pushing for that number 1 title the past couple of years, but Saban still holds the edge. But Kirby Smart, 6 11-plus win seasons, 2 national championships, has Georgia on top right now. And him and Saban are just neck and neck pretty much every year right now for, the best team, the best coach. So how can it not be Kirby Smart? All right, so number 3 here. Let's go with, where's it at? Here it is. All right. Number 3. All right, so I actually made a change here. Number 3, Dabo. All right, so Dabo Swinney, break down his stats a little bit here. 4 14-plus win seasons. 14, that's right. 14-plus win seasons. Has made 4 national championships, and he's won 2 games. I know Clemson's been so-called down the past couple years, but that's really just because he's had them at such a level for that 10-year span from, I don't remember when it started, but had that 10-year span where they were just on top every year. Back when they had Deshaun Watson, back when they had Trevor Lawrence, he was on he was on Alabama's level, talking about Dabo and Clemson, and really, I won't say underrated, but Dabo gets almost overhated just because of how good he has been. That, yeah, they have been a little down, so-called, the past couple of years with 9 and 8 win seasons, but still, when that's considered a down season, I think last year they had 10 wins maybe. When that's a down season, you're doing something right there. All right, so number 4 here, Jim Harbaugh. All right, so Jim Harbaugh, he's pretty much a guaranteed 10 wins if you bring him in as a coach. All right, he's got 4 12-plus win seasons. While he hasn't won championships like the top 3 here, there's really no argument, in my opinion, who the top 3 are. The top 2 for sure. But number 4, Jim Harbaugh, he's created a good level of sustainability here at Michigan, won a ton of games at Stanford with Andrew Luck, pretty good recruiter, kind of has a pro-style offense, a little different from some of these guys. But Jim Harbaugh gets the wins. He can also win in the NFL. He's probably going to go to the NFL after this year, but the dude's a winner. All right, number 5 here, Brian Kelly. Go ahead and put his whole name in there just in case. All right, Brian Kelly, LSU head coach, 11 10-plus win seasons and 6 11-plus win seasons. So this dude wins wherever he's at, whether it's at Cincinnati, whether it's at Notre Dame, whether it's at LSU. Brian Kelly wins ball games. Now, I know whoever goes in LSU is going to win ball games regardless, but there's a reason they brought in Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly wins a ton of games and is definitely one of the best coaches in college football. And in my opinion, one of the top 5. Now, when making this list, I think there's a for sure top 15 coaches. Now, after that, 15 and 25, you could argue. I think I had 30 names that I was trying to fit in 15 through 25. But as far as the top 15, there's a set 15 for me, not necessarily the order. There's definitely a top 15. Let me go ahead and scroll down a little bit so my big head's not in the way right here. All right, so SEC is going to get the first pick in the second round. We are at number 6. All right, probably going to get some hate for this one, but Ryan Day. Ohio State head coach, 56-7 as a head coach. Pretty good record there. 889 winning percentage. And he has 11 plus wins every season he has been a head coach. Not counting 2020 because that was COVID. So I think they lost one game, but won 8 games, something like that. But 11 plus wins every season he has been the head coach. And like I said, think of that record, 56-7, 889 win percentage. Now, I know he can't beat Michigan. He can't win the big one per se. But you would take that at any other job besides probably Ohio State and probably Alabama. Other than that, you're taking that record. You're taking 11 wins every year. I realize it can't be Michigan. That'd be similar to, Alabama's winning a lot of games that can't beat Auburn. And, Texas won a bunch of games that can't beat Oklahoma. So it's similar to that. I get it. They can't win the Big Ten championship. But you look at last year, yeah, they lost to Michigan, but they gave Georgia their best game last year. They should have beat Georgia. They choked away that fourth quarter. Ryan Day, I think he's a pretty good coach now, and I'm even an Ohio State fan. And I don't know, if we fired him, I don't know who else you could bring in. I think people that want him fired, I get it. All right, yeah, you want to win the Big Ten. You want to beat Michigan. You want to win national championships. That's the goal everywhere. But who are you going to bring in that's better than him that's not named Urban Meyer? I don't think it's happening. All right, next up here, number 7. Let's go Gundy. My Gundy. All right, Oklahoma State head coach, 7 10-win seasons, and only has 1 losing season. That was in his first year at Oklahoma State. Mike Gundy, out of all these guys on this list, is probably at the worst job. You know what I mean? So he has the hardest job, basically, is what I'm saying, out of all these guys. Not saying anybody could do it, but a lot of people could go win ball games at these different places. For example, the past 4 LSU head coaches have won national championships. I mean, nobody's doing that at Oklahoma State. And I know Gundy is not necessarily winning the national championship every year, but he has them competitive every year. Like I said, how many 10-win seasons? 7 10-win seasons. Pretty impressive at Oklahoma State. Got them to the Big 12 championship this year, and they're not even really that good of a football team. Yeah, they've got Ollie Gordon, but other than that, that's not a Big 12 championship football team, but he got them to the championship. Mike Gundy, really him and the next 2 guys, probably I would say the most underrated head coaches in football, just because they do it at places that aren't these places. They're not doing it at the biggest place. They're not winning the national championship, but they're doing the dirty work. All right, next up here at number 8, Kirk Ferentz, Iowa head coach. Kirk Ferentz, 8 10-win seasons. I know Iowa's not the prettiest to watch. I know they're not the most entertaining football, but Herm Edwards said it best, you play to win the game. Kirk Ferentz plays to win the game. It might not be a pretty offense for all the viewers, for anybody outside of Iowa, but they're winning ball games. It might be 7-3. It might be 3-2, but they're winning ball games. That's the goal at the end of the day. And he has them as a perennial top 25 team right now. And doing that at Iowa is pretty freaking successful. His only drawback these past couple of years, he had his son as the offense coordinator, and they sucked. Tough to fire your son, but hey, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. But at the same time, if you start blowing up the scoreboard on offense, it's going to change. It's not Iowa football. You know what I mean? Because if you score 50, for people that don't know football, if you score 50, that means the other team's going to be on offense a lot more. So instead of running the clock down, running the ball, taking it slow, not turning over, when you score 50, you're going to give up more points because the other team's going to be on the field more. They're going to play faster naturally. It's going to happen. This is just Kirk Ferentz, Iowa football, and as a football fan, I love it. All right, next up here, number 9, Kyle Whittingham. See if I can fit Whittingham in here. There we go. All right, Kyle Whittingham, Utah head coach, 7 10-win seasons, has done great things at Utah. If they had Cam Rising this year, I think they're a top 10 team probably. But these 3 guys, Whittingham, Ferentz, and Gundy, all tremendous coaches that don't get talked about enough. Whittingham gets a lot of love as of late because Utah beat USC last year. But Whittingham, Ferentz, and Gundy, all 3 probably the most underrated coaches in college football. All right, let's see here. Next up at number 10, we have Lincoln Riley, USC head coach. All right, I know USC wasn't that good this year, but listen to this. All right, I know he's been in Oklahoma and USC, 5 10-win seasons, He's only lost more than 3 games once, and that was this year. The guy wins ball games, been to the playoff multiple times, has proven to improve quarterbacks. All right. The guy brings in transfer quarterbacks, makes them better, turns them into first-round picks, and they have success in the NFL. Baker Mayfield, Jalen Hurts, Kyler Murray. Lincoln Riley knows what he's doing. Also Caleb Williams, not to mention that one. Lincoln Riley knows what he's doing. USC was not in a good place when he got there. I think you give him time. I think Lincoln Riley turns this thing around and turns USC back into a perennial playoff team. That's at least what I think is going to happen. I know there's a lot of Lincoln Riley haters out there because they were bad this year. USC was bad, but they were competitive in a lot of their losses. So I think Lincoln Riley's fine. Sorry, guys. I was talking. Warm me up. All right, number 11, Luke Fickell. All right, Wisconsin head coach. I know they didn't have the best year this year, but his track record speaks for himself. He got Cincinnati to the playoff. Nobody else on this list probably is doing that. Not saying above, but below or heck even above. Nobody else is getting Cincinnati to the playoff. That speaks for itself on the resume. I think he'll be fine at Wisconsin. Give him a little bit of time. He's kind of transforming their style, you know what I mean? Because Wisconsin for a long time has been run the ball, be big up front, and just kind of grind it out. Sort of Iowa-ish, but better running backs, better linemen. But Luke Fickell is a winner. Like I said, got Cincinnati to the college football playoff, and no other group of 5 schools even sniffed the college football playoff. Luke Fickell, pretty underrated head coach. I won't say underrated. He was like way up there on everybody's rankings. Then they sucked this year at Wisconsin, so he lowered back down. I think he's a good head coach nonetheless. I would take him over a ton of head coaches. All right, number 12, moving in the 3rd round, James Franklin. All right, Penn State head coach. I know he gets a lot of crap kind of for not winning the big one or not getting over the hump, but once the playoffs expand, I feel like they're going to be in the playoffs every year. His only knock is he can't beat Ohio State and Michigan. But then again, who else is doing that? He's got 5 10-win seasons. And again, he can't beat Michigan or Ohio State. But who else is doing that right now? The answer is nobody until you get to the playoff. And so that's kind of his only knock right now. Similar to another guy we'll get to later at Ole Miss. You just can't beat those 2 teams above you. You can beat everybody else. Last year, they were probably the 5th best team in the nation. Ohio State and Michigan make the playoff. Ohio State plays with Georgia. They're probably the 5th best team in the nation, but they don't make the playoff because they got to play Michigan and Ohio State. And it's part of it. When you're playing 2 of the top, 5 coaches, 6 coaches, whatever, it's going to happen. 2 of the best programs. All right, next up, number 13, Jeff Brohm, Louisville. All right, so Jeff Brohm has won a lot of games at other places too. All right, so he's been at Purdue as well. All right, multiple 10-win seasons for Jeff Brohm. You saw what he did this year in his first year at Louisville. Turned them into an instant competitor. Had them with the outsider's chance at making the playoff if everything would have fell right at the end, if they could have won out. But Jeff Brohm, pretty slept-on coach. I think he's doing a really good job. He did good at Purdue for what you can do at Purdue. You're not going to win national championships at Purdue. That's just realistic. But he has Louisville, like I said, in the playoff hunt. Should be in the playoff hunt again next year. Jeff Brohm, pretty good head coach. All right, next up, number 14, probably the actually most underrated coach. I can spell his name right. Most underrated coach in all of college football, Dave Doeren. All right, Dave Doeren at NC State has done a tremendous job there. He has 9 8+ win seasons, and not many people are going to be doing that at NC State. All right, I saw a stat. It was like over the last 5 years, the only teams to win 8 or more games. It was all the usual suspects you see at the top, you know what I mean? Michigan, Clemson, Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, and I think the other one, the only people on this list, Alabama, Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, Clemson, and NC State. Insane stat. Now, don't quote me on that. I don't remember what the exact stat was, but it was something like that. So don't be quoting it and getting mad in the comment section. But Dave Doeren, really good head coach at NC State, has them as a borderline ACC competitor every year. I think we'll have them in the playoff next year, looking at how their schedule falls. and bringing in Grayson McCall. I'm excited for NC State football. All right, number 15 here. We were talking about him a little bit earlier. Lane Kiffin. Let me get my head out of the way again. All right, Lane Kiffin really has Ole Miss on the track up. All right, he has 5 10-win seasons. And similar to James Franklin, his only knock right now, like for example, this year they only lost to Georgia and Alabama, which are arguably two of, if not the two, best teams in college football right now. He has them on a roll in recruiting. He's been cooking in the transfer portal, and they've got the number 1 transfer portal class looking like a borderline preseason top 5 team next year. While Lane Kiffin didn't do the best when he was at Tennessee and USC, he was younger. I think he's a really good head coach now, and really is probably only going to move up this list. The only reason he's not super high on this list, like I said, because of what he did when he was younger. And I think he's going to move up each year. Ole Miss seems like they're on the right track. And Lane Kiffin, I wasn't the biggest fan at first, but I think he's a pretty good head coach and pretty entertaining too. All right, we're on to the 4th round here. Next up, let's see. Let me move down a little bit. Next up, Mike Norvell. All right, Florida State head coach. He's probably going to move up as well. Has 4 10-win seasons. Arguably should have made the playoff this year. We'll get to that another day. They didn't make the playoff, but has turned Florida State around, won a lot of games at Memphis as well. Mike Norvell, a really good head coach. He's recruiting good at Florida State too, kind of has them back per se, where Florida State should be, which is one of the best college football programs in the nation. He's a pretty good head coach. He wins ball games. It might not be the prettiest. Like I didn't think Florida State was that good this year, but they kept on winning. They beat LSU. They passed every test they needed to pass. They won ball games. Mike Norvell wins ball games. He'll probably move up this list too as the years go by. All right, next up, number 17, Josh Heupel. If I'm spelling that right. Josh Heupel. I spelled that wrong. Hold up. It's going to bother me. That's right. Josh Heupel at Tennessee. 3 10-win seasons at Tennessee. Kind of has Tennessee better than they have been over the last 10 years. I really thought Oklahoma should have probably hired Josh Heupel when they hired their most recent hire, Brent Venables, which, spoiler alert, is not on this list. I thought Oklahoma should have hired him. I'm surprised they didn't. He's a former Oklahoma player, so it just kind of made sense to me. But has done a great job at Tennessee. If you remember last year at Tennessee, had them almost playoff caliber, had them in the top 4 at some point in the playoff rankings last year. He's done a good job at Tennessee. I wasn't the biggest on them this year. I didn't think they were that good, but that was in part due to just who they had at quarterback. I didn't think he was that good. But Josh Heupel, really good head coach. Also won a ton of games at UCF as well. All right, next up here at number 18, we have Chris Klieman out of Kansas State. 4 8-win seasons, 8+ win seasons at Kansas State. Won the Big 12 last year. Has won a ton of games at the FCS level as well before he made this jump. And Klieman, a really good head coach, wins ball games. He could win ball games wherever he is, I think. I think he could be a fit anywhere, and he's just a winner. He's just a good head coach. And has Kansas State kind of trending up, I would say, especially with Texas and Oklahoma leaving the Big 12. I think Kansas State is in good shape with the new Big 12. All right, next up, number 19. Should be moving up this list as well. Kalen DeBoer, 33-5 over the last 3 seasons. This is Washington's head coach. Has Washington in the playoff and has won a lot of games at Fresno State as well. I think he'll move up this list. I just need to see a little more, make sure he's legit, I would say, at Washington. A big thing for me is sustainability and just every year competitiveness. So far, he's done good, but we'll see if he can keep that momentum going at Washington. All right, next up, number 20. His counterpart in the playoff, Steve Sarkisian. All right, Texas head coach has them in the playoff, has Texas humming right now. They're back, I would say. My only knock on him is he only has 1 10-win season as a head coach, and that's this season. Other than that, he doesn't have the best track record. All right, first year at Texas, he went 5-7. I thought he should be fired personally after the first year, but he's done a good job right there this year. He has them back. can definitely recruit. Does a good job recruiting. He's also been the head coach at Washington, USC before. Does a good job recruiting, but I kind of question some of his on-field coaching abilities come the second half. It seems like to me, as an outside perspective, in the first half, Texas rolls teams when they're sticking to Stark's script. But in the second half, when they got to make adjustments, it seems like they can't do the same stuff. So he may make me eat my words. I hope he does. You can see it right there. I hope he does. I hope he makes me eat my words. But I'm a little skeptical on Sark as a head coach. But so far, he's proven me wrong this year. But like I said, he should move up after this year if he can keep Texas sustaining the level they're at right now. But that's a big thing for me. Like I said, is sustainability. And so far, this is only 10-win season. But definitely has the potential to move up. All right, number 21, first pick in the 5th round, Jamey Chadwell. All right, so you may have not heard of this name if you're not a huge college football fan. Jamey Chadwell is the currently Liberty head coach, was at Coastal Carolina before that. Over the last 4 seasons, he is 44-6. That's his record, 44-6, has Liberty undefeated this year. They're playing Oregon in the Fiesta Bowl. Go watch that if you want to kind of see what Jamey Chadwell is made of. But like I said, it's one of the ball games at Liberty and Coastal Carolina, and 44-6 speaks for itself. Next up at number 22, Chip Kelly. All right, Chip Kelly, I know he hasn't won the most ball games at UCLA, but UCLA is not the most competitive football team right now in general. So he's kind of had them at least top 25-ish every year, which is good for UCLA at the moment. But he has 7 8+ win seasons. The main reason he's on there, still holding on to hope from the Oregon days. He kind of revolutionized football when he was at Oregon, won a ton of ball games at Oregon. And while like I said, he revolutionized the game. He changed the game. Everybody went spread. Everybody went fast. Chip Kelly, proven head coach, is going to make you at least a top 25 contender like UCLA is right now. Might not win a national championship now, but at Oregon, he was definitely challenging for championships. But he's going to make you a top 25 team, and that's not bad at all. All right, number 23, somebody you probably have not heard of, so let's put his whole name here. Troy Calhoun. All right, so you probably hadn't heard of this guy. He's the Air Force head coach. Over the last 3 seasons, he has 29 wins, and he has 11 8+ win seasons at Air Force. So my thought with this, yes, he has a ton of wins over the last few years, but if he can win at Air Force, imagine what he could do at a big school. All right, because not many people, even on this list, are going to Air Force and winning that many ball games. Not many people on this are going to Air Force and having 11 seasons where they win 8 or more games. Troy Calhoun, maybe the most underrated coach, because until I started doing some research on this, I had not heard of this guy. So Troy Calhoun, great head coach. Air Force is always competitive. I do know that. I wasn't aware. I knew they had a good head coach. I wasn't aware that was his name, though, Troy Calhoun. But they're always competitive. They were top 25 at the beginning of this year. Air Force is a good football team, and apparently Troy Calhoun is staying at Air Force. Show me he doesn't have any interest in leaving. Otherwise, he would have by now. But really good head coach, Troy Calhoun. All right, number 24, Mark Stoops, former Texas A&M head coach. Just kidding. Kentucky head coach, was Texas A&M's head coach for all 5 minutes. Mark Stoops. And Mark Stoops has Kentucky really competitive, top 25-ish, at least battling for a top 25 status every year. The knock on him is he's only won 10 games twice since he's been there in 10 seasons. Now, doing that at Kentucky is impressive. Apparently, it was good enough to, like I said, get the offer from Texas A&M. So if he would have taken that job, Mike Elko wouldn't be there. But Mark Stoops, if he didn't know, he probably do. Took the Texas A&M job this year for like 5 minutes. Apparently, if Louisville would have beat Kentucky, he wouldn't have changed his mind. That really makes sense to me. He said he changed his mind after they won the game. So basically, he's committed to the contract, played Louisville and beat Louisville, and then it's like, you know what? I think we're okay. We're staying in Kentucky. So he's going to guarantee you probably 7 or 8 wins. I don't think he's going to win you a national championship, but he's a pretty good head coach. This is Bob Stoops' brother, by the way. All right, last but not least here, Jon Sumrall. All right, you may have not heard of this name as well. Current Tulane head coach now, but he's been the Troy head coach this year and last year, went 23-4. And before he got here as the head coach, they had only won 5 games in all the 3 seasons before he got there. And now, like I said, 23-4 over the last 2 years. He's turned around Troy. And that was kind of one of the main reasons he's on this list, and say somebody not like Dan Lanning, for example. All right, Oregon was humming already before Dan Lanning got there. Cristobal had won like 10 or 12 games the year before Lanning took over. Sumrall, like I said, they had 5 wins there before he got there, has turned them around. Now he's headed to Tulane. Really good head coach. Some honorable mentions here. Jeff Tedbird at Fresno State has won a ton of ball games there and Cal. Curt Cignetti was the last cut on this list. He's the James Madison head coach, head to Indiana. Mack Brown won a ton of ball games as well, but not really as many as of late. Mario Cristobal, Dan Lanning, the Oregon head coaches, and then Tom Herman won a bunch of ball games at Houston and at Texas. All right, so that is the draft. All right, so my top 25 coaches are on your screen now. Hopefully, let me try to get out of my head out of the way. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at it here. Like I said, down in the comments section, I want you to let me know which conference you think won this draft, which conference has the best 5 coaches combined. So we'll start on the left here. The ACC, you've got Nick Saban, Lincoln Riley, Luke Fickell, Steve Sarkisian, Jamey Chadwell, pretty solid group there. Big Ten, we've got Kirby Smart, Kyle Whittingham, James Franklin, Kalen DeBoer, Chip Kelly. Big 12, you've got Dabo Swinney, Kirk Ferentz, Jeff Brohm, Chris Klieman, Troy Calhoun. Pac-12, Jim Harbaugh, Mike Gundy, Dave Doeren, Josh Heupel, and Mark Stoops. SEC, I'll move my head out of the way so you can see this. Brian Kelly, Ryan Day, Lane Kiffin, Mike Norvell, and Jon Sumrall. All right, so that is my top 25 rankings. That is the draft. Let me know who I missed down in the comment section. Who would you add to this list? But you got to do me a favor. If you add somebody, you got to tell me who you're going to take off too. So let me know who you would add to this list, who you would take off of this list. Also, let me know some of the more underrated names that I might have missed. So not necessarily somebody that's winning the big one, but somebody you think is one of the underrated coaches and, in your opinion, is a top 25 head coach. Also, make sure to let me know who you think won the draft, which conference won the draft. Let me know down in the comment section. Comment down below. Make sure to like this video and subscribe.